I'm coming around to Doom Patrol, but for a little while I was worried this episode would lose me because the show, as I've mentioned before, is slower paced than Titans, but it's a different type of show than Titans. But I like the action that picked up at the end, and I'm going to talk about the action too very soon. But first, I'm not usually a big comedy person, but some of the comedic moments in this episode I thought were really funny. Like I liked in the beginning when Jane was putting up, was going around putting, wanted or not, have you seen me posters for the chief? There was like a picture on a post saying for Hannibal Lecter. I thought that was funny. I thought that was pretty funny actually. And then the other part where Cyborg, his father cut him off. He tells the team that they're going to use a jet to get to Paraguay, but then because his father cuts him off, they have to ride the bus. I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know, maybe funnier than some people, but I thought that moment I thought was really good. But this show did ramp up of the action at the end, and I was surprised because one of the things a lot of people Titans is a great show, but one of the things people criticize it for, and I actually agree with this criticism in a lot of cases, is the Titans on the show are very brutal and like excessively violent. And the Doom Patrol so far hadn't been like that, but in this episode, like Jane and Robot Man were really killing, those Von Fuchs puppets at the end of the episode. Especially, they were like slaughtering them. And, Robot Man was like smashing people's heads against the wall. He was stomping their like faces or body parts in. Jane killed Von Fuchs and other people. And hadn't expected them to go that direction with the Doom Patrol. I thought the Titans was going to be the really bloody, superheroes, and the Doom Patrol, I wasn't sure how they were going to do the action in Doom Patrol and have the characters behave in fight scenes. But I guess now we know. The Doom Patrol, like the Titans, they don't hold back. And so I guess that's going to be like the thing in the DC Universe live action Titans, verse or all their shows. Their heroes are going to be very gritty. And, like when they deal with villains, they deal with them, right? And speaking of that, Jane kills Von Fuchs at the end of the episode. Or one of her personalities does, and I wasn't thinking that was tactically smart because wouldn't he might have had like a lot more information they could have gotten out of about the chief and Mr. Nobody before she killed him. Like I know they got information in that puppet show, but of course there's a lot more than that. And I'm thinking shouldn't she have tried to interrogate him first or something? He probably had a wealth of information about the chief and Mr. Nobody they could have used to their advantage. But she just, took him out. And then, when Robot Man's like, shouldn't we search the place or whatever, she gets big and just starts burning it down. And I'm kind of I don't know, it just seemed like that was a very rash, emotional decision. And, since they were on a mission to find information and find, find the chief, they should have focused more on the extraction information part and not just on let's beat people up and slaughter them part. But, I guess they're not that experienced at being superheroes yet. We could chalk it up to that, but even so. And speaking of that, Cyborg is pretty key to this iteration of the Doom Patrol or the way they are in the show because he is, I guess, what the person there to, motivate them and put them on the journey to become heroes because it's his decision to go find the chief. And he's the one, trying to be team leader and saying, we're going to have briefings and stuff like that. And it's very interesting how his character is being utilized here. And he's getting a lot of development as well. And I actually feel like this is the best live-action portrayal of Cyborg so far. Even better than the movie version of the DCU, unfortunately, which is bad for Ray Fisher. But, since the DC movies don't really want to do much with Cyborg anymore, that leaves the TV universe to do, a lot with him. And I think his character comes out really well in Doom Patrol. He's trying to be level-headed and grounded. He uses his powers dynamically in fight scenes. Cyborg did in the movies too, but in Justice League. But again, since they're probably not going to be doing too much more with Cyborg, how many more opportunities will there be for him to use his powers creatively or dynamically on screen? It's going to be for the TV version now. And I think the TV version's personality comes off really well too. He comes off more human and I guess relatable. Whereas in the movie version, they tried really hard to, focus on the man and machine angle, which is fine. That doesn't mean that he's a less interesting character. There's a lot of man and machine characters that are cool. Like RoboCop is cool, but they're going to be exploring more with the more human Cyborg, I guess, on Doom Patrol, which is unfortunate that they aren't going to do that in the movies. But Cyborg is kind of an unexpected but welcome addition to the show, and he's actually really important in driving the plot and the Doom Patrol as a whole forward. And that's great. Great for him, and great for the actor. Javon Wade, right? Isn't who's playing him? I forget the actor name. Yeah, Javon Wade. Wasn't he also in? Well, never mind. I'm going off on a tangent, but he's doing a good job, and so is the show, the writers with Cyborg. They're also playing up the whole like freaks of nature unwanted angle, because in the beginning, when Jane is putting up the posters, to find the chief, the Cloverton people are like, get the hell out of our town because you wrecked it before. And that's similar to, how the Doom Patrol have been treated in the comics often, although not always. In the 60s comics earlier, they were actually seen as like, like heroes, people like stars, people like them. But then there's been other, because they would save people, right? Like no matter how freaky you are, if you're saving people and stuff, I think sometimes people are going to review you with, if you have awesome powers and using them to save people, even if you look hideous, I think there's a lot of people who would really like you for that. But there were also times when the Doom Patrol were not welcome. I know there was a period when they were based in Kansas, and the people of Kansas wanted them out. And that's what I thought of when I saw this. The people of Cloverton wanted the Doom Patrol out, and that made me think of that issue in Kansas. I think that was like the late 80s, early 90s when they were in Kansas, and the Kansas people didn't want them there either. So they're playing up the whole unwanted freaks angle, which is very X-Men-like, which is interesting because, there are people saying that the X-Men actually ripped the Doom Patrol off in the 60s. But, that was a cool parallel that I saw here. I really like seeing the Doom Patrol coming together as superheroes, as I mentioned before. Because, so far, and still sort of, they're reluctant superheroes, and Cyborg is trying to, motivate them to be more active superheroes. Because, you have powers, you're going to sit around and do nothing. Especially when the chief, your buddy's in trouble, you're not going to help him. That's actually pretty sad that, he has to, like, motivate them to go find, their benefactor whom I assume they care about. Like, they shouldn't have to be told to do that, but oh well, I guess they need it. And, I really enjoyed the action scene at the end of the episode, even though it was, like, excessively brutal. I like seeing the Doom Patrol. I like seeing heroes being competent, active heroes. I don't like seeing heroes who, like, they're weak or they don't, like, try to do anything. And the Doom Patrol are superheroes. Not necessarily always the most effective superheroes, but they are heroes, and I like seeing them behave and act like heroes. And if that's the story arc for all of them overall throughout the show, that's great, and I like that. And we saw a glimpse of that at the end. And, I like the whole, we're learning how to be superheroes, let's figure it out as we go along angle. That works for me with this show. And I like, seeing heroes in actual fight scenes, because that's one of the reasons we like superhero shows, right? We don't want to see superheroes not do anything. So, I like the character moments, which this episode and this show overall had a lot of, especially with Negative Man and the negative spirit here trying to learn, wrestle with that, and then go into his past, with his lover and his wife. But, they got to put some fight scenes in there, too, to make it interesting, right? And they did in this episode. They saved the big fight scene towards the end, and it was actually a very, revelatory fight scene, as I mentioned. They were getting pretty brutal, The Doom Patrol doesn't mess around. Well, it'll be interesting to see, like, how does Cyborg deal with villains, right? Cyborg's supposed to be, the hero of the team. Is he going to be as brutal or as violent with people as the other members are? And is he going to approve of these methods? Like, is Cyborg okay with people just straight up killing their adversaries in fights? Or will he try to motivate the Doom Patrol to be a better way? Or will he not approve of that? And what if they don't care? What if they don't care if Cyborg doesn't want them to kill people? That'll cause some friction, maybe. Maybe I'm, maybe I'm predicting some of the plots of future episodes. And at the end of this episode, by the way, we get the appearance of the Animal Vegetable Mineral Man. I didn't know that's who that guy was. That regular guy when they first get to the Von Fuchs place in Paraguay, and he's like, I'm going to get some powers. And then later on, we find out he's the Animal Vegetable Mineral Man at the end of this episode. That's like one of the Doom Patrol's most classic villains. And I guess silliest ones, especially with a name like that. And this is his origin in the show. And I guess he's going to be their adversary in the show too, but I don't know, I can't see any reason why he would hate the Doom Patrol in the show yet. Because he seems pretty happy to have these powers, and they didn't do anything to him, the team. So why would he care about fighting them? Is he mad at them? Maybe he'll be mad at them for leaving him in that tank without saving him. But he seemed pretty happy to have the powers. He was like, oh, look at this, even though he looks really, like, messed up. So we'll see. I can't see at this point what his motivation will be to fight the Doom Patrol, because he doesn't seem pissed off at them. At least not at the end of this episode. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel because I appreciate your viewership, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.